Welcome back. Moto Academy podcast. Absolutely the number one podcast in both motocross and motocross. And I can't even say the word correctly anymore because I overthink it so badly I mess it up. This episode is sponsored by Element. If you guys want to hydrate the right way, like a true absolute unit like myself, go to drinklmnt.com/AJCat330 and you can try a few flavors for free with your order. I've got some citrus something or other. It's like a lemon lime flavor in here now. Oh, sorry that I don't know how to swallow either. Loudest swallower of all time. Try it. Go to that link. It's not a code. Go to the link. Get it. Also, we've got tour dates coming up. Thank you, by the way. So many people, all of these classes have been either selling out or darn near close. With myself and Coach Mitchell, we're starting to get Grant more and more involved. We have a class coming up. By the time this comes out, we'll have already done in Thunder Valley in Colorado. And Coach Grant will be there with me. Very grateful. You guys have been awesome. These classes have been more fun than ever. They keep getting more fun, which is, I'm just so lucky. And everybody, whenever I get compliments, which does happen often. For those just listening, I just pat myself on the back. My response always is, well, I mean, I love it. And I'm so lucky. And I hope that spills over and is obvious to those that are learning and how passionate I am when I teach. It's only increased the more that I've done it. I think a lot of people imagine, holy cow, you are traveling a ton and doing these things all over. Like, are you sick of it yet? Are you sick of saying the same things over and over? And not at all. Not at all. Also, because I'm not saying the same things, I'm learning so rapidly off of the dirt bike and outside of class, outside of motocross in general, that my teaching evolves what feels like rapidly. And I'm curious, send me a message. Let me know. Like, have you guys noticed that difference? Have you seen that coming through in videos? Have you seen it noticed it in the podcast? If you've gone to classes consistently, which a lot of you have over the years, do they feel exactly the same? Does it feel a little bit different? Is it better? Is it worse? Am I talking too much? Am I not talking enough? I don't know. Give me some feedback. But just wanted to give all of you guys a shout out because, yeah, just love doing it. And we keep leveling up. Moto Academy is growing, whether it's noticeable from the outside or not. I had this conversation with somebody the other day. It's like the amount that we've improved in the last 2 years internally as a business is mind-blowing. We're grossing a lot more money now than we were. Expenses are also a lot more than what they were, but we're starting to become truly a well-oiled machine. We're still at the very, very beginning. We're not even scratching the surface, but it is exciting. Tour dates coming up. October 18th, Thunder Valley, sold out. Shout out to you guys out there. That class is sold out. October 18th, the same day, Coach Mitchell is going to be Field of Dreams in New Jersey. That one's probably almost sold out as well. October 21st, California. Oh my God. Sorry for everybody's ears. October 26th, Kentucky. October 26th, I'll be in Michigan. Coach Mitchell, myself, dividing and conquering. October 28th, 508 International in Massachusetts. Then we're going to be New Mexico, California, Idaho, Ohio. Oh, indoor. I was going to say November in Ohio. That's not a good idea. That's indoors. Route 62 MX, Ohio, Coach Mitchell. Alabama, California, Georgia, Louisiana, Illinois, Florida, New Zealand. Shout out Coach Mitchell going to New Zealand. Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, and 4 pages more of classes are on the website. So when you get to the bottom, keep on scrolling because there's a heck of a lot more of them. Okay. And that's at themotoacademy.com, by the way. Okay. Shout out Ethan, new film guy. How have you guys been liking the content lately? Give us a rating. He's been queuing me up with podcast topics to cover. So I'm going to follow them. If you see me looking down, For those of you watching, it's because I got a little cheat sheet off to my left with some talking points. The way this podcast is going to work, I'll go through the talking points. At the end, I've got a couple of good podcast questions from Peter Estevina and Moto. And then I'm going to put my headset on. We're going to take a brief intermission, probably toss an ad in there. And we're going to go live inside of the mastermind community inside of the app. And we're going to talk about ego and identity, the definition of that, the reason it's important, and have some cool conversations for a 45-minute to 1 hour live stream inside of the app, which I'm going to go live for the first 20 minutes or so of that live stream. So that way you guys get a chance to be a part of it. If you want to join the full live streams, of course, get inside of the Moto Academy app. That's how we're going to start doing it from now on. Give you guys a little taste, not the full live stream, but just the first part. I think it's appropriate, and it also allows me to be more intentional and really focus on the fact that I am doing a podcast simultaneously at the beginning, and then focus primarily only on the live stream once we get deeper into it. First topic, gosh darn it, we're going to hit them with it. 3 tips. What is it? 3 tips to become a better rider off of the bike. 3 things you can do off of the bike to become a better rider on the bike. Okay, I'm just going to make them up off the top of my head. Fitness, base level fitness. Holy cow, I'm experiencing right now what it feels like to be a fairly unfit, but then again, relatively speaking, maybe compared to the average person, I'm still fit. And I get tired so quickly. Having a base level of fitness off the bike, running a few miles a week, hopping on a stationary bike so you have some cardio, and your heart's used to pounding a little bit, and just a base level of strength fitness, doing a foundation training video for 10, 12 minutes a few times a week it gives you a base. So when you get on the dirt bike, you can do more than 1 lap. Let's face it, there's a lot of people out there that I think that are riding way longer than they should, and they're exhausted the whole time. Myself included, but I do know that I at least pull off the track because I know when enough is enough. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, off the bike to get better on the bike. Study footage. Get inside the Moto Academy app, or don't. Just go on YouTube and type in anything, and we've got a bunch of free content. Study it, watch it. The more you listen to my instruction, the more you'll be able to recognize, this is what I tell students at class, the more you'll be able to recognize what somebody is doing wrong and how they can correct it. Once you understand and can recognize that in others, you'll be able to recognize it in yourself in real time as you're out there on the bike. And that's kind of the evolution of your learning process. Not just the teaching aspect, but also being able to study what it's supposed to look like and emulating that. That's how I learned. The very beginning stages of me learning were not somebody telling me how to do it and then me doing it. It was me watching bar to bar, turning on Supercross and watching it, studying my favorite riders like McGrath and Wyndham and all of these guys, and just trying to look like them. And it's amazing how well, if you're really paying attention and being conscious about the movements you're making on the bike, it's amazing how well that works. Number 3, get smarter. I know that seems like a weird one, but work to evolve and grow off of the bike. Read. When your intelligence level begins to creep up, which everybody's can, by the way, you're not stuck where you're at. It doesn't matter if you're in school or you got out of school 20 years ago. Everybody can learn and grow. It allows you to make calculated decisions on the dirt bike. That's the important word there, is calculated decisions. It might seem dangerous to other people, but there's a lot that I do. For example, going to Kalana Humphrey's house last week in California and riding a massive setup with big jumps. There was nothing overly dangerous about that for me because it was so calculated on my end. You have to be able to recognize where your skill level is at that time being, which jumps you should progress on, all of that. A lot of people aren't there yet mentally. I don't know if it's just because they're so hung up on, comparison to others. And so they don't think about what they should be focusing on. But the more I've learned about growth mindset versus fixed mindset, the more I've learned about ego, the more I've learned about just psychology in general. Not that that's what your learning has to be about, but it is quite helpful when it comes to dirt bike stuff. And it is quite helpful when it comes to my own riding. I can catch myself, even at Kalana's house, I felt myself getting nervous as I was putting my gear on. And in real time, I'm able to recognize that I'm having nervous thoughts, not try to stop them, but just recognize what they are, understand that I don't have to choose to be nervous right now. And just as I assess my fear and I work my way through it, I was like, okay, well, what am I actually nervous about? And there was a couple of key obstacles. And then in my head, I just worked my way through, okay, why am I nervous about that obstacle? The takeoff, the landing, whatever it was. And I'm able to work myself to the root cause of each of those fears and then make a educated decision on whether it makes sense for me to attempt the obstacle or not. And therefore just makes it completely logical and emotions aren't involved. Yeah. So get smarter off the bike. Long-winded way of giving you that third tip. Let me know what you think. We're going to kind of bounce through these topics. They might feel random, but I think this might be a fun spitfire way of doing it for you guys. I also just had some amino acids and I just feel like I'm absolutely firing in all syllables. Let me take a sip of this water here. If I'm talking too fast, sorry. Next question that Ethan wrote down. This is an interesting one. Why are stock levers the best? This is definitely a subjective opinion, but if you take a look around at a lot of pros bikes, a lot of pros are running stock levers. I just feel as though it's almost like when I tell people not to mess with the chassis and the ergonomics of the bike, it's designed that way for a reason. There's something about the stock levers that just feels so nice. And personally, I've never had an aftermarket lever that feels quite as good. Comment below, absolutely comment below. Let me know your favorite aftermarket levers. I'd love to give them a try. I've ridden with a lot of them because I steal people's bikes constantly. And yeah, I always crave getting back to a stock lever. And I just think it's something about the bend and the feel. I don't know, again, personal preference, but if you do take a look at other people's pros bikes, you'll see a lot of stock levers, surprisingly, on pros bikes. As long as those bad boys are in. There was one year in Supercross where my levers were way too far out, and every time I tipped over, I was snapping a lever. And it was like the theme of the first part of my season. And finally, we just moved the levers in a little bit, and the issues stopped. So that's kind of silly. Topic number 3, folks. We're ripping and dipping absolutely right through them. I just got a text from the team. The difference between stock suspension and sending your suspension out to a company to get it done. This is very much a case-by-case basis for people. And what I ask first is, okay, how much do you weigh? And usually if somebody is in the 160 to 180 range, absolutely. Most of the time I say, you know what, probably worth not spending that extra money for now, depending on your skill level and your goals. Because that bike was designed for that weight. A lot of bikes come, especially the Yamaha, the stock suspension is very good. If you're trying to be super competitive in racing, well then yes, it's certainly worth getting it sprung to your weight, getting it valved a certain way. I would say worth it. Can also be more worth it depending on what bike brand you're on. So if you're on a 2022, 23, or 24 Honda, I've said this many times before, but the suspension is, the chassis is rigid feeling. So therefore the suspension feels rigid feeling. Or maybe the chassis is too soft and therefore the suspension feels, I don't know. Either way, the suspension feels rigid. But most bikes that I've ridden, Hondas, that have the suspension done, it still doesn't feel good. So this is stuff like that. And people that are going from 85s to big bikes or can't choose whether to get a 125 or a 250 or a 350 or a 450 or a 2-stroke or a 4-stroke. So much of this is very case by case. It's all case by case. So if you want guidance, there is no better reason to be inside of the Moto Academy app, because you'll be able to get some guidance and opinions from other members inside of the app. And I can really work you through that process as well. Send me a direct message inside of the app so I can respond directly to you guys and make sure I don't miss it. I get asked those questions all the time. And I feel like I'm able to be really helpful in making people feel good about the bike choices that they make. Nothing worse than spending $10,000 on a bike, getting it, and then instantly realizing that you made the wrong choice. I could absolutely help you guys avoid that. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful. Line selection. Emphasize the importance of choosing the best racing line to maintain momentum while saving energy. A couple things with line selection. I find that people choose a line without much of a reason in the first place. A lot of times I think people choose a line because they just sort of ended up there by accident, or maybe it was just in the center of the track and that's where they thought they should go. And they don't explore. What I want to urge you guys to do the most, and do this in a safe way, which means not going crazy race pace and exploring, but explore lines. I've caught myself doing this so many times. Granted, yes, almost always in a race environment when kind of the pressure's on a little bit more, but I catch myself riding a line that I know for sure is really not good. Right? Who's been there? Who listening to this right now has been in a line in a whoop section or a roller section, or hitting a line on a jump face or a rut in a corner, and you just mess it up every single lap. And you know that like you aren't doing it well, and also like the rut itself or the line itself, just it's not good, but yet you stay in it the whole time, either the whole race or the whole day that you're riding. It's insane. Well, it's kind of like how people know if they're slacking in life or making mistakes and making the wrong decisions in life. They just continue to do it because it's comfortable. So I can understand, especially while on the dirt bike, move around, try some other lines. And what you'll find probably is that you're going to find some better stuff, because where you were going, I wouldn't be surprised if where you were going is where everybody else is going. If you're going down the dead center of the track and there's 300 people at the track that weekend, 295 of those 300 people are going to be going right down the center of the track too. So as soon as you start to explore a little bit and ride the edges and think a little outside the box with line choice, you will start finding some really fresh stuff and lines that were cut in probably by higher level riders. And a line that's cut in by a higher level rider will always be better. The rut it will be dug in instead of completely vertical and maybe even like too close to the inside. It will be dug in hopefully with like a nice arc. It will have a little bit more of an angle to it, so it's easier to get the lean angle. Yeah, track cut in by a higher level guy versus a beginner, it's a totally different racetrack. So get out of that main line going down the center. You might be pleasantly surprised. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, don't want to keep plugging the app here, but I'm gonna. Send your footage into the Moto Academy inside the community feed. Use the hashtag coaching wanted and ask these types of questions. Get the feedback on your footage. Not only can I give you line choice suggestions, but body position, jumping, you name it. We can help you out. I think it's just think about what we're doing. And everybody listening to this podcast, I'll also shout out to you guys, because if you're listening to this pod, if you're in the app, you are light years ahead of the majority of the population, because it's just on your consciousness. You're thinking about it. If it's actively on your brain, you are a few steps ahead of everybody else. So give yourself credit for that, without a doubt. That element, we still got the amino acids are still floating around in there. I can taste it. Interesting flavor, but pretty good. What time is it? Because I got to go live at 5:30. I got 10 more minutes. Perfect. Oh yeah, really perfect. Because what we're going to do here is we'll dive into a couple podcast questions, hashtag podcast questions inside of the app. Should I make sure there's not more? Am I trusting Ethan that he got all of them? Because there's only 2. We haven't done a call to action for these in a while. So go in the app for the 15th time and the 15th plug in this episode and post your podcast questions and use the hashtag podcast questions, and you will get an answer. They can be about absolutely anything you want. Ask me about cooking, and I won't be able to help you. Ask me about science. Maybe I could help you a little bit. Ask me about pets, children, bicycles, fishing, and I'll forward you to Brian Latimer. Ask me about anything, because why not? If I can't answer it, at least I'll try to make it entertaining. First question is from Moto. MMA collab with TMA in the future? Question mark. Who would you like to see from another sport, profession, give motocross a try? To give context, Sean Strickland from the USC met up with Ty Masterpool at Fox Raceway. He also appeared in a Deegan vlog before SMX in Vegas. Sean Strickland. Name sounds familiar, but I can't picture who that is. That's cool. That's really cool. So, yeah, actually, I've been in touch. I had breakfast one morning and got a chance to hang out with, and I've been in touch since with Michael Chandler, UFC, very good UFC fighter as far as I know, and also been in touch with quite a bit Mighty Mouse, so Demetrius Johnson, also, well, not UFC, he should know this. I think he's like one of the technically greatest fighters, people say, and I don't know anything from the outside looking in, that he looks like an absolute master. So you guys tell me. But they had both. They're both interested in dirt bikes, and I think it's cool. The problem is they're both actively kind of fighting. I don't know if Mighty Mouse is or not. Michael Chandler's been, gosh darn it, trying to get that Conor McGregor fight for forever. So hopefully that works. I don't want to hurt these guys. Channing Tatum sent us a message. Who else? We've had some really cool different types of people reach out, and yeah, it's just a matter of coordinating. I think there's no better person, honestly, to train these people on a bike if they want to get seat time. I saw Liam Hemsworth, maybe, or Chris Hemsworth, one of those, was riding a Stark. I thought I saw Wolverine on a Stark at one point. Pretty sure I saw the guy from Transporter, the English dude. What is his name? This is going to bug me. I can't move on unless I think of it. Oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Tom Cruise had somebody training him. Oh, by the way, I saw a video of Tom Cruise hitting like a massive tabletop training for the skydive, whatever base jump type of jump scene that he was doing. And yeah, so I don't, who is training Tom Cruise on that bike? I don't know, but it probably should be me. I know that's biased, but yeah, right? What the heck is the guy's name? And looking it up. Jason Statham. Gosh darn it, I freaking knew that. Transporter. What a good movie, by the way. How many Transporter movies have there been? Too many? 5? No. Is he also in a movie called Taxi? No, that's something different. Anyhow, Moto, good question. And yeah, that's going to be the goal. I mean, I think that it makes complete sense. So why not? Why not? Podcast question from Peter Estavina. He's not Italian. Where is he from? Not Italy, that's for sure. But he's from somewhere. Peter, hope you're healing up. He had surgery on his knee. Had to have been a few months ago now, so should be well on his way to recovering. I have a question related to corner speed and body position. You're getting into a corner and hitting the gas somewhere between the beginning and the middle of the corner. What's the ideal body position? And could that be the way to increase corner speed once you're comfortable with all the things needed to do that correctly? Okay, so if I understand your question correctly, yeah, you're spot on. You need to learn the body position first. Specifically, well, among many other things, the most important thing with cornering is your posture. And kids, parents, buckle down, parents. We need to work on posture. We should be sitting like this. Okay? I know I was just slouching back into my seat a second ago, but we all need to practice good posture. And if you thought there was never a reason to do so, which there are many reasons to do so, there's subconscious benefits to it in that if you sit like this, your subconscious mind will basically think that you're a loser or you just lost the fight, versus this will give you that subconscious confidence that maybe you're looking for. It's much more polite to sit like this. It will make your lower back feel a heck of a lot better. There's countless reasons, but gosh darn it, it'll make you better on the dirt bike. And I've been explaining this a certain way for a while, and CR Luke inside of the app sent me a message this morning saying that, AJ, when you talk about posture, you talk about tightening your abs. When I think about tightening my abs, this is what he said, I hunch. I think about tightening my abs and hunching. And you know what? I think he's correct in that is what most people probably do think, right? It's the person that like doesn't have a six pack and is trying to like make it look like they have a six pack, and they go into like that bodybuilder, like hunch and crouch. That's not what I mean. So I need to start explaining it differently. When I say engage your core, I'm meaning to do so in an upright position. I think a couple ways to do this is to pull your shoulders down and back is probably single-handedly the one thing that helps with posture the most. I'm sure there's people that know a lot more about this than I do, but the pulling the shoulder blades back to kind of puff the chest out just a little bit will pull you into a little bit of an anterior pelvic tilt. Not so much when you're sitting. It kind of brings you into more neutral than anything. But when you ride, you want to be in an anterior pelvic tilt so that the lower body can work completely separate from the upper body. When you slouch, if we're like this, the lower body is now connected to the upper body. So any little discrepancy in the corner, if you wash the front end out a little bit, you're going to feel it all the way through your body, and you will be frustrated forever when hitting corners because you'll never be consistent. So, and how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you sit on the couch and we're like this, if we sit at the dinner table and your shoulders are rolled forward and we're hunched over like this, if we're sitting in an airplane and we're hunched over like this, how do you think you're going to ride when you get on the dirt bike? You're probably going to ride hunched over like this, and it's not going to work. So start forming the habit of correct posture. Take your back off of the backrest of the chair. Sit on a chair without a backrest and see if you can remain in a comfortable position for a little while. It is absolutely engaging your core. You could punch me in the stomach right now and I'd be okay for the most part. But it's pulling your shoulder blades back, and it's just forming this habit. That alone will change your life in corners. I absolutely promise you. Good question, Peter. And it is now 5:31. I've got to get in the app. Gosh darn it. Okay, guys. I guess we got Allie with the whole shot. Jesus Louises. No, not a gamer, Ethan. You think I'm that low level? Just kidding, gamers. This is a aviation headset. Because I'm a pilot, gosh darn it. You probably don't know that. Not officially. Only 20 hours in the air. But $0 order in the store. Who's getting free stuff? Just came through. What's up, guys? Thanks for joining. So the way this is going to be a little premix Papa. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing awesome. Always thinking about you. Always trying to be like you, to be quite honest. This is how we're going to do it from now on. So you guys are cued in. We're in a podcast. Yes. Live stream podcast. We're on a podcast. I'm going to be podcasting with you guys for the first 15 minutes of this conversation. And then if I can, we're casting the pods as rotate. We absolutely are. Cobwebs everywhere. And 15 minutes will be podcast. I'll wrap up the podcast, sign off, and then I'll be just with you guys for 40 minutes after that. Does that sound okay? Allie, are you watching this? Could you please bring me my notebook, which was supposed to be down here? I left it in the sunroom. black notebook. It's on the couch in the sunroom. Please. Pretty please. I need it. It's got everything in there. What's everybody up to? How's everybody doing? CMX 214 in the chat. The Real GP. Real GP, please make sure that you help me schedule a live stream with everybody that did the 24-hour. Okay, so let me cue you guys in. What I'm doing, and I think I've teased it a couple of times, reason it hasn't come out yet is because, well, I keep deciding to do it slightly differently and keep taking things away, keep adding things. We're doing a mindset course inside of the mastermind. What I'm trying to do, and I'm actually starting to wrap my head around it pretty well, is just like the Moto Academy with riding, the Moto Academy mindset is going to have a few fundamentals. And so the initial video course will be as deeply as I can explain them, explaining the fundamentals of the Moto Academy mindset. It's coming out really good so far. And it will be a series that will continue indefinitely because you can choose topics probably forever. And absolutely, just like my teaching on the bike changes, my mind will develop every day and every week and every year that passes. So these courses will, gosh darn it, we got Alyssa must be offering credits to people because my phone's just going cha-ching left and right, and it's all $0 orders. So shout out Alyssa, but also I wish she wasn't doing that as I was on a live stream. I need to turn my phone off so I don't get those notifications. Let me bring up today what we're going to talk about, and I want you guys to ask questions. I want you guys to, when I get a little deeper in, hop on here with me if anybody's comfortable and talk a little bit about your journey with this specific topic. We're going to talk about ego and identity. So first I want to describe, where the heck is this? The definition of ego. So that way we're all on the same page. Because a lot of people think of ego as arrogance, right? And that is not how I use the term ego at all. Just trying to find the right page. Should have been prepared, but guess what? I talked too much in the podcast before I logged on. Am I blind? Because it should be right here. Oh, yep, here it is. Here it is. Okay. So ego and identity is what I chose as one of like the core 3 fundamentals of being able to learn and grow. Everybody in this live stream, everybody in the world is in some way, shape, or form learning and growing. The best and most effective way at doing that is being able to understand what your current identity is, and then being able to change and shift and morph into a different identity, into a different person. I think a lot of people that are stuck in the fixed mindset are stuck being the same person. And to become the person you want to be, you have to become a different person. And yes, that's scary, but when you understand a few things about the ego, it is incredibly helpful. The ego is your attachment to this 3D world that we're experiencing. So the ego is the things that you consider yourself good at in life. Your ego is the things you consider yourself being bad at in life. Your ego is the things you like. I like this food. I like doing this activity. The ego is the things you don't like. The ego is my relationship with other people in this world. It's anything that is this in this 3D world is ego. And what those things do is you create an identity by navigating through this world. You create an identity by having experiences, getting the feedback from that experience, and then logging it subconsciously as, okay, well, learn this, and this is the type of person that I am. You're told from people when you're growing up, whether they have malintent or the correct intent. Usually people have good intent, but it still can drive home an identity. And again, so when I mention ego, that is very much what I'm talking about. And to be able to grow, that was the first step for me, I think, was having the awareness of Fire at Will. Shout out Fire at Will. Is this a Sigmund Freud? Is that his name? Freud? How do you say it? I've definitely read him before, but I can't remember what I read from him. That's where I started. It was the awareness of, okay, this is the type of person that I currently am. Without that awareness, you are unknowingly creating more and more solid confines around the identity that you've created for yourself. So therefore, it becomes almost impossible to create change. I hope that makes sense so far. To me, it makes complete sense. But there's a very big difference also between like learning to understand, completely assimilating the information, and then assimilating the information so well that you are being it, and then being able to be it so well that you can explain it easily to others. And is that an Albert Einstein quote that if you can't explain it simply, then you don't know it well enough? And guess what? Maybe I don't know it well enough. But by me explaining it to you, I'm practicing. I am practicing. So it's having that fluidity within your identity to be able to make those changes. Step one is having the awareness, be able to recognize that you're telling people that you are this type of person, or you're telling yourself that you are this type of person. Recognizing it, step one. And step two, taking the chance to, and it's scary because your ego, all it wants is comfort. And comfort is all of the things from the past that it's put together to describe the type of person you are. So as soon as you want to try and do something and be a type of person that is a little bit different, with just one characteristic, one little part of your life, that subconscious mind, that voice, that the person standing on the left side of your shoulder, or that little voice in the back of your head is going to say, no, this is a bad idea, and going to try to talk you out of it. Because the ego wants to be, the subconscious mind wants to be the same. It wants to remain the same. It wants the comfort of knowing that the future is going to be exactly like the past, and it can predict that. And that's why you'll experience the resistance and the fear when trying to make that change. Making sense so far? If you guys are lost at any point, please send questions. So essentially, fake it until you make it, and eventually you become what you're faking. So to a certain extent, yes, to change, you have to become the person that you want to be. So at the beginning, you won't believe that you are that person yet. But there is a very powerful part of that auto-suggestion and that conscious auto-suggestion to yourself of repeating those things over and over and over. And at first, the imagination will win. It's Emile Coué is a book that I read. It's called Self-Mastery Through Conscious Auto-Suggestion. And one thing that he says is that when it's will versus imagination, the imagination will always win, because the imagination is your subconscious mind. That's what's imagining all of these things. It's your subconscious mind. When you're trying to will yourself to do something, that voice in the back of your head will always win, because that's deep down what you believe. But the beginning is is a little bit of faking it till you make it, but it's just becoming the person that you want to be, one step at a time, so that you can do it in a gradual way. And as long as you can envision what's going to happen at the end, you can just start to become that person one day at a time. So it feels less like faking it till you make it, but I guess that is one way that I get you could describe it. Thought, fire at will, more or less. Yeah. Thought without action is nothing. Identity is the totality of our actions and not our thoughts, not just our thoughts. Yeah, it all does boil down to action. It really does. And that's when I say the gradualness of just doing it one step at a time, because the fake it till you make it can't work if you aren't taking any actionable steps to get there. You just simply have to start behaving like the person that you want to be, a lot of which will be uncomfortable things for you to be doing. But the more you do it, the less uncomfortable you'll feel. And then next thing you know, you will start turning into that person. Like, do you think I would have been comfortable sitting on here talking about this stuff a year and a half ago? Absolutely not. Still barely comfortable doing it. But I know the type of person that I'm working to be in 5 years and 10 years down the road. And I know that I am taking every possible step to make it happen. And so just time hasn't caught up yet, right? Moto. For me, auto-suggestion works great. It does seem that the true belief comes all at once at some point in the journey. Yeah, isn't it weird how it works out that way? And auto-suggestion, by the way, could be negative auto-suggestion. So if you're catching yourself, saying, I'm not good at this, or I'm not really that good at doing this, or I'm not really good at drawing, I'm not good test taker. There's a lot of stories that people tell themselves that are versions of negative auto-suggestion. And those are also creating, as you repeat these stories to yourself, and then as you say them out loud to other people, that is what's creating your identity. And as you do that, it's downloading all of these auto-suggestions are being downloaded into your subconscious, which a good way to think of the subconscious is it's the automatic. It's anything that you're doing. It's almost everything that you're doing. The subconscious is 95% of your day-to-day life. It's keeping your heart beating. It's digesting your food. It is creating all of your reactions to every single thing. Like when you're walking up the stairs, are you thinking about walking up the stairs? Probably not. All chewing food, swallowing food, responses to conversations that you're having. There's so many different levels of this, but when you really sit down and think about it, 95% is subconscious. So 95% of it is that automatic behavior, which is why you have to be easy on yourself when you're making change, because you're not fighting against, that's a bad word, but you're only using that 5% of your conscious awareness to affect change in the 95% that is automatic. So at first, it absolutely is going to feel like an uphill battle. The more you practice it, you will, though, feel like you are chipping away at it one little bit at a time. And maybe you'll feel like, okay, 90% is subconscious. Maybe 10% of that is actually conscious now. And the more I've read and reflected and learned, right now, if you were to ask me sort of like, what is the point? I believe that the point is to consciously evolve, right? And that includes being a more loving person, a more caring person, a more present and aware person. But evolving your consciousness, I kind of feel like is the whole point and the whole reason that we're here at the moment. Right? Okay. Well, let's see. Let's read some notes here. Ego, identity. I wrote down a note. It says, be careful with the term I am. Holy cow, was I guilty of this for a long time. I remember actually, if you go back into YouTube vlogs from probably 2019, 2020, I would repeatedly say that I am not a good racer. I would also say that I am not a competitive person, which was a really interesting thing for me to say. But on the topic of auto suggestions. If you are saying I am, your subconscious mind is like, yep, sure, okay, you're saying this, we're going to start putting that into action. It just thinks literally, or it doesn't think at all. It just acts literally, and it begins downloading. So I am is incredibly powerful. I can't is also incredibly powerful. I gave this tip, and I don't remember where I learned it, at class the other day, and I could tell it resonated with a few people right when I said it. I said, stop using the term I can't. Catch yourself when you do, and just add yet to the end of it. I can't hit this double yet. That is a very, very different saying than saying I can't. I can't is indefinite. That's infinite. That's your subconscious going, yep. Not a coach yet. Premix Papa. Gosh darn it. Yet is the most important part of that, because I'd say you're there. Premix Pops, you're there. You could assist somebody in helping them think. You could assist somebody in helping them ride a dirt bike. That's the easy part. Reading some notes. Reading the notes. Oh, okay. This is a good thing to keep in mind. So your identity, your current identity, is very largely formed in the years 0 to 7 years old. The reason being is because you will, in those years 0 to 7, so when you're in your mom's belly until you're about 7 years old, you are operating primarily in a theta brainwave state. And what that is, it's a certain frequency that is highly suggestible. And a good way to think of it is, if you have your conscious mind up here and you have your subconscious mind down here, the thing that separates the two is your analytical mind, right? So it's the skeptic, it's that analytical mind. That analytical mind just about completely dissolves when you're in theta brain state. Theta brain state is what a hypnotist would attempt to get you into, to hypnotize you. And it makes you completely suggestible. So a 0 to 7 year old, picture essentially just hitting record and everything is being downloaded. Good or bad, horrible, amazing. All of it is being downloaded. So when you're 8, 9, and that analytical mind is starting to form, and you're coming up to alpha, and then you're entering what most of us live in, which is beta brainwave states, we are now operating in our automatic is what we learned primarily from 0 to 7. And most of us never correct and begin chipping away at those habits. We just actually add more confines to the identity, and we just get more and more and more stuck within it. Shout out Dawson 401. He must be hard at work at the Alley Hole Shot School, because that was one of the best hole shots I've ever seen. Moto Academy Podcast. Sorry, this is abrupt, but Moto Academy Podcast, I'm logging off for you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're watching it somehow, we're going to get them back. The video's back in the app, by the way, guys. That got lost while roles were switching. Don't know what episode this is, but it's the #1 podcast in the world. That I know for sure. Not just in motocross. I've decided it's actually the best in the world now. Thanks for watching. Okay. Toodles.